I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with Edward Minyard. He is an expert, a recognized expert in crisis management with over 4 decades of experience, culminating in his gripping novel, Complacency, One Man's Story. In the book, the author draws upon his deep-rooted knowledge of risk management, security, and business continuity, employing riveting storytelling to emphasize the peril of overlooking potential threats. He is based in the serene White Mountains of New Hampshire, and he is also a Grandmaster of Taekwondo, as well as a combat veteran. We're delighted to have him join us here today on Spotlight, and we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our show. You are a Renaissance man, Ed. What don't you do?
Well, first off, thank you for having me on the show here. And
Sure.
I'm not a veterinarian, so we'll settle with that right away.
I think I said veteran that time, right?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Okay, good. I almost said veterinarian before.
It's all good.
Something you
It's all
don't do.
good. No, but I do find myself with a lot of diverse interests, and as a result of that, I have been able to move in different directions. I've been given some great opportunities to explore different arenas, and yeah, I'm very fortunate in that regard.
Absolutely. Tell the folks at home, give them the big picture. What's your book, Complacency, One Man's Story, all about?
Great. So complacency really is much like you said. I mean, it really outlines from the perspective of a novel in the beginning of the book. It really outlines the risks that we face if all the things that we see happening in the world right now were to go one step further. So if you really break down what's going on in the book, turn on the news, turn on CNN, turn on Fox News, you'll see it all. You just don't see that next step. My experience has been in envisioning that next step. I'm the risk management guy that takes a look at all the things going on, and I tend to see the thorns before the roses, right? And I look at what might happen and the probability of that occurring. But you try to tell people that, Logan, and nobody wants to hear it. And because people become complacent.
Yeah.
And it's the worst word in the emergency management field. So I try to write something that would, from an entertaining perspective, lead people to broaden their horizons and open their minds.
In your book, what are some of the threats that are disregarded?
Well, so we talk a lot about all the things that are going on, the crisis at our southern border. And it is a crisis at our southern border from a lot of different perspectives. And we talk in the book about the factual issues of all of the folks, not only that we capture or catch at the border and help to process or turn them around, but there's the millions that we have not caught, known as gotaways. And we know that there are a significant number of those folks out there that have been on the terrorist watch list. We know that there are folks from multiple different countries, not just South America, coming across that border. So what if?
Yeah.
And that's the big question in that. So the other huge issue that's brought forth in my book is that of the insecurity in the United States power grid. And it's been going on forever. I mean, Ted Koppel wrote about it. Robert Fortune wrote about it in his books. There are a number of different books that have been written about the risks to our power grid. And there have been many movements within government to try to enforce the power grid operators to do more to protect themselves or protect their cybersecurity, physical security, just not doing it. And for a person as myself who've been in multiple disasters from Japan to St. Thomas, I can tell you that after about the fourth day without electricity, it stops being a sleepover. It gets serious, and people begin to die, and bad things begin to happen. So this book, again, takes that the next step further. If I could just say this, before it just seems like it's all gloom and doom. The last part of the book identifies why I think these things, why these things are possible to occur. And then the final chapter is what you can do about it to become better prepared yourself, either by working with government to try to encourage more investment and paying more attention, or all the way down to developing your own kit for preparedness and survival.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is written as a novel, but it's really a wake-up call to Americans that we have a myriad of potential threats out there, from pandemics to crashing our electrical grid to losing internet. And we don't seem to take them very seriously, even though we're just coming off of 2020.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just now, Logan. This has been going on forever. Like I said, the C word, complacency, is the bane of every emergency manager's life. Because if something terrible happens, people throw money, people throw energy at it, people throw time at it, until it doesn't happen again for a few years. And then everybody seems to forget it. Well, it didn't happen, so it's probably not going to happen. So why should we waste any more time on it? Then it happens again. And
Right.
the recent hurricanes in South Florida are a classic example. Everyone in Naples said, well, you never get hurricanes in Naples. Hello.
Until they got them.
Until they got them. And that's the big issue. So I wrote it in the form of a novel because you can preach at people and all you do is lose them after about 3 sentences. But if you entertain people and you open their minds and cause them to maybe think about it, and some of the emergency managers that read my book, the pre-publication, I got 2 basic responses. 1, are you sure you want to publish this book? Yeah. And 2, you better hurry up and publish this book before all this happens. So, exactly. I think that if it can get to the point where it opens folks' eyes a little bit, maybe it'll do some good.
Yeah. As I mentioned, we are just coming off a pandemic that was horrible on one hand, was not as bad as expected on another hand. And here we are 3 years later. Do you think we're being complacent? Do you think we're ready for that next wave of whatever it is that's coming in?
Yeah, I think that we are suffering from fatigue right now. I think that there's been so much beaten down on us about masks and vaccines and things that have proven relatively ineffective. If you really boil all the fat out of it. I'm not going down that road. I'm not trying to start a major controversy, but I will tell you that you just look at the statistics at the end of the day. But what happens is you get fatigue. The boy who cried wolf kind of syndrome. But if you listen to the real experts out there, I was involved in the H1N1 pandemic that started in Mexico some years back, and ultimately wound up writing a bunch of plans for states and localities in the United States. One of the major sources, Dr. Robert Westerholm out of the University of Michigan, I believe, made some very poignant statement at that time. This may not be the big one, but the big one's coming.
Right.
So this may, we will become complacent over this, and we already are. 63% of Americans right now are saying they don't want to take any more boosters or vaccines. Well, good or bad, I don't know. I'm not going to weigh in on that subject in this dialogue, but I can tell you that the reason for that is because they're looking at what really happened in the statistics and people pounding it down their throat. Nobody likes to be dictated to. Culture change must be led. It can't be mandated. And we've tried real hard to mandate it. So I think as a result of that, we will find some complacency evolving. It's the same reason that people are still building multi-million-dollar homes on the Gulf Coast.
Exactly.
Because, why not?
Right. Tell me how your experience as a combat veteran informed your work as an author.
Well, so I think that it was so long ago that I think the only thing that really helped to inform it was the perspective of resilience and the perspective of, being prepared for that next thing and realizing that the defecation may strike the rotary oscillator when you least expect it to, and being prepared in the best way that you can for that kind of thing. So I think that has really helped to inform it. In my other 2 books, it played a more significant role. We're talking about, because an Army Ranger was the key character, and there was a lot of shooting and beating up folks and things like that. So that one really did more inform it. But from the perspective of an emergency manager and a crisis manager, it's about the discipline. It's about looking at things from a practical perspective. It's about weighing alternatives and risks. And all of that comes from military experience and combat experience.
Absolutely. Complacency is your latest book. Tell me about the writing process for you when you were writing it.
Well, it really came along pretty quickly for me, actually. So because the concept of complacency is one that I have written articles on and done speaking engagements on. The title of most of my previous articles and my speaking engagements was Preparedness is Not Paranoia. And it was all about that concept of, don't worry about it. People think you're a prepper. At the end of the day, if you're not prepared, you've got a problem on your hands. May you never have to use your 25-year survival ration. Hope you never break the seal on it. But if you need it, and having been in situations where it was needed, really helped to inform that. So I basically took that concept and this terrible thing of people becoming complacent, and I thought, okay, based upon my recent experiences, I sold my company at the end of 2020 and retired more or less. I still get called back for work along the southern border and other places. But what I was able to see and do in there was really what helped to inform the book. So many of the things that I write about are real deal. Almost everything in it is real deal stuff. It's just taking that to that next level. So it really sort of began to write itself after a period of time. I just kind of got on a roll and was writing 1,500 words a day and just kind of hammering it out. It was exciting, and I've got a little post-traumatic disorder thing going on right now as a result of quitting.
That's
okay,
funny.
now what? Right?
Exactly. Have you visualized? Well, now what? How about this? Have you visualized it as a series or as a film?
I think that it would probably make a good series or film. I mean, if you really looked at the way it's broken out throughout the chapters of the book and the various scenarios and scenes and characters that unfold within themselves. I think so. I'm not a screenwriter by any stretch of the imagination. One would always hope.
Yep.
You look at that and say, man, would I like my book to be a miniseries or something like that? Absolutely.
Sure.
Would I like it to be on every bookshelf in every airport bookstore in the world? Well, heck yeah.
Yep.
Sure would, but it's a matter of getting that word out. And this is thanks to you. I really appreciate the opportunity to join you here. It's going to really help, I think, to move the message forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The name of the book, once again, is called Complacency, One Man's Story. And as the author, Edward Minyard, has pointed out to us, complacency is such a threat to life as we know it. As a man who has built a career in crisis management and risk management, he can tell you that firsthand. Ed, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much for having me on, Logan. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.